Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to Gather and Go, the podcast that helps you plan, promote, and lead better trips. I'm your host, Brian Jewell. I am so honored that you decided to spend some of your time with us today. And as always, our promise to you is that we're going to do everything we can to make that investment of your time worth your while. Now, today I'm going to bring you a featured conversation with tourism technology guru Greg Fisher. Greg is the creator of several online travel agency and reservations technology platforms. He's also the author of a new book called Mastering OTAs. And if you work in tourism, OTAs or online travel agencies are a technology movement you need to be aware of. That's why I'm excited to introduce you to Greg today. When you listen to this interview, you're going to hear his thoughts on tech tools that could help you extend your reach and streamline your operations. He's going to share how to make online travel agencies work for you and give us his thoughts on why the rise of AI might be great news for small tour companies. You're definitely going to want to hear that. First, though, let's start with some travel news you may have missed. New York City has lowered its 2025 tourism forecast. Just months after projecting record-setting visitation numbers for 2025, New York Tourism and Conventions has downgraded its outlook by 3.5 million visitors. In February, the agency announced that it would expect a total of 67.6 million visitors this year. In the new report released last month, that number dropped to 64.1 million. The biggest change in the forecast is in international inbound travel, which officials are now estimating will drop 17%, or about 2 million visitors, from earlier projections. They attribute the decline, which has already started, to negative global sentiment engendered by changes in U.S. trade policy. The forecast adjustment also includes a slip in domestic arrivals, now estimated to be down 1 million visits from the original number of 52 million. Though it is difficult to predict with certainty, New York tourism experts anticipate that full recovery from the current slowdown may not occur until sometime between 2027 and 2029. Well, now it's time for the road tip segment of our show. This is the part of every episode where we dig deep into our bag of travel knowledge from decades on the road and bring you tips to make your next trip less stressful and more successful. You know, I remember a trip from many, many years ago, must have been 15, 16 years ago. I was on a fam trip in New Jersey. And after dinner with the group, I was back in my room. And I got a call from the fam trip organizer. And he said, "Hey, Brian, I need you to come up to my room for a second. I need to show you something." And so I put my shoes back on and got on the elevator, went up to his room. And when I came in the door, there were a handful of other fam attendees in the room. And in front of us was the most elaborate bar and snack and dessert display I had ever seen in my life. That's right. The hotel staff, unbeknownst to the fam organizer, had wheeled into the hotel room a full mobile bar cart with just about every drink you could think of, with all the garnishes to go along with it, as well as miniature desserts, appetizers, anything you could want for a fantastic evening of entertaining. And so, as you can imagine, my friends and I had a lot of fun that night hanging out in the suite, taking advantage of the snacks and drinks. And it made such an impression on everybody on that trip. And it got me to thinking, a hospitality suite might be just the thing your group needs to take your social connection on trips to the next level. Now, there are several ways you can do this. Hopefully, you're familiar with the idea of a hospitality suite. You could, when you are working on booking your hotel, you could negotiate to get a room with a suite for you or for your group leader. Another way you could go is instead of getting a comp room that many tour groups get as part of their travel package, have a room that nobody is staying in that you set up as a hospitality suite for your travelers. You could even ask the hotel staff to remove some of the beds and give you more chairs to make it a more comfortable seating area. Another thing you can ask is if the hotel has any unused meeting rooms that you can use. This is especially common at those mid-tier, limited service hotels. They very often have a meeting room that's not always in use. And very often they're willing to let groups use it as a staging area, as a dining area, as a hospitality suite, often free of charge. So what do? Well, you get whatever your facility is going to be, whatever room you're going to be in, and you set up the suite with some drinks, some snacks. Make sure there's comfortable seating. No, you don't have to serve alcohol. You could have a variety of teas, lemonades, juices, soft drinks, whatever people like. Put them in ice, put them on coolers, however you want to set it up. Have some salty snacks, have some sweet things that people can munch on, and just generally open it up for having a good time. You can let the group know what hours the suite will be open or when you're going to be hanging out in there. And then during those hours, go onto the suite, prop the door open, and welcome people to come in, take a load off, hang out with you before or after a busy day on the road, after dinner. It gives people a time to extend that socialization instead of feeling like they have to go back to their hotel rooms when they get back from dinner at 7:30. I love this idea as a great way to promote mingling, making connections, and doing the important work of building community that is such a cornerstone of the group travel experience. It's also a great way to fill in space during free time. If you are giving your people, say, a free afternoon, a free dinner during the trip, why not also be in the hospitality suite so that people who still want to hang out with you can do that, people that want to hang out with each other can do that, and they don't feel pressured to go find something to do in a city they're not familiar with. It's also a good alternative to included meals. If you want to have a night on your itinerary where there's no included dinner, you can save some cash by not having to offer a dinner and instead setting up a nice hospitality suite. So people who maybe don't feel like they need a big meal can come in, browse a little bit, and enjoy the time together. Others can use it as a jumping off point or a coming back point for a happy hour or a nightcap or something like that. One reason I love a hospitality suite on a group tour is it creates a high perception of value among your travelers, and it doesn't cost you a lot of money. Yeah, you might spend $100 on some drinks and snacks, but it's going to make such an impression on your travelers. They're going to remember that you went out of your way to create space for fun and engagement and community. And well, I have a hunch that if you do this, they're going to want to travel with you again. That is your road tip of the week. Well, before we move on, I want to take just a minute and share a little bit of news from us. If you've been listening for a while, I hope you've heard me tell you about our on-site familiarization program. That is the program where we partner with destinations around the country and sometimes around the world to sponsor familiarization tours to give you opportunities to see some great destinations firsthand and plan trips back with your groups. We've got some great trips lined up for this year, and I have a brand new FAM opportunity to tell you about. We are going to be partnering with Alabama Tourism for a tour through the state on September 30th through October 4th. Now, I will be on that trip in person. I would love to have you join me as we explore Huntsville, Muscle Shoals, and Birmingham. We're going to see highlights like the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville. We're going to go to a couple of the world-famous recording studios in the Muscle Shoals area. We're going to stop in at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute and catch a lot of great live music and other fun surprises along the way. Now, as always, this trip is free. All you have to do is apply at our website, grouptravelleader.com/Alabama-FAM. I'll put that link in the show notes so that it's easy for you to get to. Fill out the form there. We will forward your information on to our partners at Alabama Tourism. And we are excited to have you join us for this fantastic trip in Alabama, September 30th through October 4th. And once again, you can get your application in today at grouptravelleader.com Alabama-fam. Well, it's just about time for us to get into our featured conversation with Greg Fisher. Before we do, let me remind you, you can find a wrap-up of all the most important things Greg and I talked about on the show notes for this episode. The show notes are the text that displays below the media player wherever you're listening to this podcast. And after the conversation, I'm going to do a quick wrap-up of the interview as well. And then I want to encourage you to stick around to the end of that wrap-up, because once it's over, I am going to share some of my thoughts about why there may be a silver lining to the falling international visitation in the U.S. right now. That's going to be today's Hot Minute. You won't want to miss that. We'll be right back with Greg Fisher. All right, everybody. My guest today is a 15-year veteran of the tourism technology industry who has dedicated his career to helping small travel businesses succeed in the digital age. He's the founder of the online travel agency TripShock and the creator of WaveRes, a reservation software platform for water sport and boat tour operators. His new book, Mastering OTAs, the definitive guide for tour operators, is a must-read for anyone interested in reaching more travelers and selling more tours. Greg Fisher, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I am so glad to have you here. Technology is becoming increasingly more important in the tour business. And so anytime I get the chance to talk to somebody like you who knows it from the inside out, that's a conversation I'm excited about. Why don't you tell our listeners how you became a travel technology entrepreneur?
Yeah. So I'll give you the very short story because it's very long. I started out working in hotels. Young lad in my early 20s, and had a situation where I had an opportunity to solve this problem we had. And really, we had people coming up to the front desk wanting to book all these local experiences. And typically what you would do is you'd give them a rack card, or you would call down to their location and book the reservation for them. And I found that very inefficient. And also, I thought like, okay, maybe there's a way to monetize these interactions with the guest. And some of the businesses down, I'm from Destin, Florida, but some of the businesses offered a commission affiliate revenue if we referred them. So kind of put two and two things together. I said, well, we should create a platform where people can easily book these experiences, and there could be an affiliate commission for, the referral person, but also an online marketplace like you see with Expedia and Groupon and whatnot. So little did I know I'd be getting into this amazing journey starting TripShock. So I left the hotel. I partnered with a local businesswoman who had a charter fleet down at the Destin Harbor, and she put up the money to build out the platform. And there we have it. We signed up a handful of different operators, and over the course of 16 years, we grew it pretty much every single year, adding more products, more markets, integrating with multiple reservation software, just kind of learning. When we first started, there was really, mobile phones really weren't important yet, and as they are now. So I literally lived that entire journey from going from like primarily desktop bookings to mobile, and how that all evolved. And then through the journey, I decided that it was time to start our own reservation software. So we created our own reservation system called WaveRes, where we partner with typically boat rental and boat tour operators. And it's a seamless integration with TripShock and many other marketplaces. So today we're just operating both companies, and which kind of led me to writing my book to document all those exciting adventures and all the things that I learned that I could pass on to operators that they might not get if they've just researched the internet, because some of the stuff I unveil behind the curtain a little bit on how online marketplaces work. So,
Yeah, and it's so helpful because, in any topic you're going to research these days, you're going to find half a dozen articles online by people saying, this one neat trick, right, will help you double your sales or whatever on OTAs. Very rarely do you hear from somebody from inside the industry who has built one, who runs one, who says, no, really, here's how it works. Here's exactly what you need to do to succeed here. So for people who maybe don't know all the jargon, define OTA for us and give us a scope of what that is, because I think people know Expedia, like you mentioned, but maybe they think, well, there's Expedia, there's Orbitz, there's one or two others, and that's it. What is the OTA ecosystem? What does it consist of?
Sure. So OTA stands for Online Travel Agency, and as you said, Expedia is one of the biggest OTAs. Booking.com, another big OTA, but also that term can be broadened in a way where the term reseller also somewhat applies. So anyone that buys tickets wholesales or consigns tickets wholesales and resells them, that could be an OTA too. So I would say anyone that consolidates and aggregates different experiences or tickets or hotels, flights, anything, and resells them to the consumer, that to me is an OTA. Anything to do with the travel sector. Now, there can be some gray areas with cars and flights and transfers and stuff, but it's just about reselling travel products.
Yeah. So there are many more OTAs out there than most people might be aware of. Help us understand how they break down. What's the difference between one and another? And how do you know, as a travel seller, how to begin parsing, this one might be a good fit for me. This one probably isn't.
Yeah. Wow. So there's hundreds of resellers, but for those listening, there might only be 2 to 3 that really fit your demographic or those that would actually bring meaningful business for you. So if we're taking tours and activities, that vertical first. So you have your big players like Expedia, Viator, Get Your Guide. And frankly, it really comes down to Viator and Get Your Guide in most destinations globally. And then you do have Klook too, which is Asian market. So again, depending on where you're at, but for purposes of this short episode, let's say Viator and Get Your Guide. So these are the global resellers. They're in all markets across the world. And then there's a huge gap. And when I say huge, like massive gap between your global resellers and then like your regional or local resellers. So like TripShock, for example, my OTA would be considered a regional reseller. We're in 20 markets or so, but I just read something recently that Viator put out for their earnings, because Viator is owned by TripAdvisor. They do 32 bookings a minute.
Oh my gosh.
So that's the scale. I mean, for us, we do 32 bookings maybe in an hour on a good day on average. So it's like they're huge. But we're also focused on certain destinations, certain verticals within those destinations, like boating and water sports. And if you are an operator in Key West or Destin, Florida, or Panama City Beach, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, then we would be a great fit for you, especially if you're on the water, because these are areas where we focus more heavily on. We're experts in this segment. And it's not always easy to find these, but I'll tell you, if you're in the market, you will pretty much know who your top resellers are.
So you have an OTA and you have a software system for reservations. I've heard in general, people refer to that kind of technology as restech. Can you help us parse out the difference between OTAs and restech? And does a tour company need both? And are there ways, if you do need both, of making them work well together? Or is it hard to make them work together? Help us untangle that.
It's a great question, because a lot of people think your restech is your OTA and your OTA is your restech. So think of it 2 ways. So you have your OTAs is demand. So OTAs spend money to bring you bookings, where your restech or your supply side systems, they are meant to help manage your bookings. So when the bookings come in, they go into your reservation software. And then from there, that's where you manage, you cancel, you move, you get reporting. And then also those supply side systems or restech help you sell directly to consumers through your website. So they create booking widgets and things you can put on your site. Now, here's the confusing part. They will integrate with each other. So, for example, if you use my reservation software, WaveRes, you can integrate with TripShock and Viator and Get Your Guide and all these other resellers. And the reason why you'd want to do that is because when someone books through TripShock, that booking gets fled through using APIs. I don't know if we want to get how deep into that. I think by now we know APIs give the ability to connect one system to another. Yeah. So these bookings flow through these APIs into your reservation system. And then from there, that's how you manage that reservation. So at any given time, you could be getting multiple reservations from multiple channels, and your reservation system kind of keeps it all in order.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, a lot of our listeners are selling in their local communities. They're selling outbound tours. So, maybe listing on an OTA doesn't make sense for them today. Do they still need restech though? Or how would a restech system kind of help them make their businesses better?
Oh, so are we talking multi-day tours?
Yeah, multi-day tours.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a business in 2025, you're going to need technology to manage your reservations, leave notes, take payments, all sorts of things. So no matter what business you are, day tour or multi-day, you have to have a reservation software. Now, when it comes to getting distribution for your tours, the OTA side for multi-day is not as robust as day tours, just because there's way more demand for day tours than there is multi-day. So there's companies like Tour Radar, which is really popular. I know that Get Your Guide and Viator also allow multi-day, but they're more so dabbling in it than they are really going heavy compared to the day tour. So, would I have my tours listed on these OTAs as a multi-day? Absolutely. But it also depends on where you're at with your business. If you're selling out all of your multi-day tours all the time, if it's a very complex booking where it needs a human touch, maybe OTAs aren't the best partner.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you see this becoming something that is more profitable for the multi-day companies as some of the leaders in the industry maybe dabble in it, invest in it? Is there upside, or is that always going to be something that is, just sort of an also-ran for that multi-day operator?
So in my book, I talk a little bit about like the value proposition of OTAs. So taking the multi-day tour example. So if you have a multi-day tour of 20 individuals, and on average, you always have 5 empty seats for this multi-day tour, then OTAs don't necessarily require you to list all of your seats for a specific tour. You could give them 20 seats. You can give them certain days. Now, at the end of the day, OTAs want profitable partners, so you can't be really picky and give them one seat on, one day of the month. You have to give them inventory so they actually have enough to sell and look at you as a profitable partner. But you can be strategic. So if your average group size is 5 and you typically have 5 seats always available on this specific tour, then give the OTA 5 seats to start with. So you can gradually build your business with your distribution partners, but start slow, just to kind of make sure you don't get too crazy, or maybe you sell an entire tour at a 25% margin, and then you're okay, well, my profit margin's all gone because I did this. But if you sell one group at 25%, but the rest are paying full, then now the numbers are a little better, and those 5 seats would have been empty regardless. So kind of taking it that approach, ease the burn, because most people think OTAs, it's just money off the top, profit margin gone. But if I'm selling a 200 passenger boat tour 5 times a day, and I sell 20 seats to an OTA at 25% that typically go unsold, you're making more money.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. So let's talk more about those numbers. I'd love for you to walk us through the economics of OTAs. How do they get paid? How do they make money? What does it cost the tour operator? Does it cost the consumer anything when they book through the OTA?
Sure. So from the supplier side, we'll start there. Most OTAs, it's strictly a commission for every fulfilled booking that gets paid. So that can range anywhere from 15 to I see it as high as 30%. The more, if the average order value is higher, then typically the commission is a little bit lower on average. But every OTA is going to be different. Some OTAs have initiation fees, monthly fees, but most of them are just commission on fulfilled orders.
Yeah.
Now, from the consumer standpoint, typically there are no additional cost. However, there's some OTAs that do charge a booking fee or service recovery fee, and this covers credit card cost, fulfillment cost, and they can range from 2 to 6%.
Yeah.
Now, the OTA. So let's talk about how the OTA makes money, because you think commission, okay, 20%, that's amazing, that's great. But I'll tell you, for an OTA, those margins get sliced in so many ways. So the first thing is that OTAs spend a lot of money on marketing. There's a reason why, they ask for as much in commission, because I'll tell you, on average, each booking that we get for TripShock, half of that goes right to advertising and marketing before we even start cutting that up to pay for labor and all sorts of things, just right off the bat. Because OTAs, their main priority is to sell and bring bookings in. We're not a management software. Our job is to get bookings. So if that's the case, we got to work real hard, advertise on Google, Facebook, everything, everywhere we can to bring bookings. And then the fulfillment of the order, chargebacks, credit card processing fees, integration fees, integrate with all these different reservation systems, the labor for taking orders and managing, rescheduling. So there's a lot of costs that OTAs have to absorb, and that's why that commission is what it is. I know some people think that we're just taking 25, 30% and put it in our pocket, but there's a lot that goes into managing an OTA, and just the software alone is very expensive and time consuming to maintain, especially with the developments of AI and whatnot. We have to constantly keep up with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, I think a lot of consumers have kind of caught on to the fact that when they order from their favorite restaurant through one of these delivery apps, that all of a sudden the price of the menu items in that restaurant is higher than it is if they just walk in off the street and actually eat in the restaurant. In other words, restaurateurs are raising their prices to account for the cut that Uber Eats or Postmates takes. Do you see a similar thing happening on OTAs, or are the tour operators pretty much keeping the pricing the same as it would be if you bought direct?
Yeah, great question. So yes, it's very well known that operators, all hotels, tour companies, Carlos, they do add a little bit of a cost increase on OTAs. Now, I see it happening on TripShock, and there are times where I talk to the operator and ask for them to get in parity, and then there's sometimes I ignore it. So the times I ignore it is because that product is selling so well that the higher the prices, the more commission I make. So I don't want to ruin that. Maybe they're priced too little anyways. And I'll tell you, a lot of businesses struggle with pricing their activities and tours. And it's not that because they're not good at it. It's just very complex to price your product. Extremely. Sometimes it's like, okay, they price their product one way and it does great, and we're just going to roll with it. Now, if they're not selling and they're taking up a lot of real estate on the site, then that's a situation where I'd want to call them and say, if you want to maintain your placement, then we have to get in parity or try to figure something out, because it's probably the case that they're price sensitive for that specific product and they're shopping a little bit more and then finding that that price is lower elsewhere. If we get customers complaining, then that's when we somewhat take action. But for the most part, I kind of let it ride until it becomes a problem, because at the end of the day, I want the most profitable partners listed as high as possible in each search result.
So a tour operator decides they want to market on OTAs. What are some of the things that they need to do to really make sure that relationship works for them? Are there hacks or secrets or ways to really optimize your relationship and ensure that you're actually getting bookings?
Yeah, this is the most important part. So first off, let's just take an example of that. You're in a fairly competitive category. So there's already a handful of operators listed on the OTA. They already have a lot of reviews. Your job with that specific OTA is to get listed, be aggressive, and get as many reviews as possible. So here's the problem I see in a lot of situations is where you have a competitive category and there's already hundreds of reviews for your competitors. They have 4.8, 4.9 rating, beautiful photos, competitive price. And then we get someone signing up and they give us mediocre photos. They're $20 higher for a very similar experience. They have no reviews. And now they're not getting any bookings. They're not getting impressions. And they're upset that they're not. So if you find yourself in that situation, you're going to have to make a decision, because you can either stay on the OTA and get no bookings, or you can take action. And some of those things are going to be making sure you have the absolute best photos. And in my book, I call your primary image should have something called a key moment. And a key moment is that perfect photo, that candid photo of the tour. So for example, if you're doing whale watching, it's that picture of someone taking a photo of the whale's tail in the air. Or if it's parasailing, they're up there with a GoPro in the air. They're excited. The parasail's in the background. So capturing those key moments with people having the best time of their lives at the climax of the tour. That should be your primary photo. The rest of the photo should be telling a story of that entire experience from start to finish. So if you're doing a boat tour, then it's like walking on the dock, boarding the boat, getting the captain's briefing, setting sail out, through the pass and things like that. And then the sunset would be the climax. And then you have things coming back. So creating that story with the additional images. And then coming the price is always the most controversial discussion, is that if they are the highest price and they're offering nothing different, there's the same value proposition, then maybe for that specific OTA, maybe not all of them or your direct price, but for that specific OTA, you need to get competitive on price, because why would that consumer choose a tour that's $10 higher, that has no reviews and has a lower rating? They just won't. It's just, unless there's something very specific like the location. So I would be very aggressive on price, even be the lowest for a little while until you build up a little exposure. If that's a deal breaker, then maybe it's not a best fit, because I know there's still tours these days that are sitting on our platform that have not gotten any bookings because they have not acknowledged the fact that they can't be $20 higher on our platform when they're selling the same experience. So those are probably the two main points that when you're listing on an OTA, you got to understand where you're at that time. Now, once you start building up reviews, you get a high rating, you're starting to show that OTA that you're a profitable partner, you're going to move up in the ranking. And once you hit those top 3 spots, now you're cooking with gas. You're at a prime location that 50% of people are going to see your listing. So then you can kind of grow, really build from there. And you have a more sustainable, in my book, I talk about order and rank. And the top listing in any search result on an OTA gets more than 45% of the booking share.
Wow.
The second gets around 20% or so, and the third gets around 15. So once you get past that third search result, you're not going to get much exposure. So getting on the OTA and really working hard to get to those top 3, and then you can scale it back. You can say, okay, I'm going to raise my price a little bit. I have the reviews to support it. I don't have to go as hard. I don't have to invest much into their feature placement programs. I'm good for a while.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Now, you have told me before that you anticipate AI is going to be a huge disruption for OTAs. I'd be curious to hear you explain how you see that playing out, and how different people within the tourism ecosystem should plan to adapt to that.
Yeah. So this is my Nostradamus outlook, but I feel like it's going to happen sooner than later. So my belief is that the consumer-facing side of an OTA, so where you go and make a reservation, that will slowly sunset, and those interfaces will be replaced by AI agents. So I believe that companies like ChatGPT will create personal assistants where you can load in your customer profile, your credit card information, your address, everything. And you would, instead going to the OTA to search, you would go to your AI chatbot or AI agent, and you would say, I would like to go to Florida for 5 days. I want to do these experiences in these destinations. My kids are 5 and 11. I got a service dog. I only want to go between these times. Go find me the best itinerary. Comes back with options, and then it says, here it is. Which ones do you want to do? And then you tell it what you want to do, and then it will go ahead and book those for you. So you won't even have to go to the website. So we will essentially be building consumer-facing interfaces for AI agents, not so much people. Now, this is where it's really important for businesses to realize, because what the questions I just asked my AI agent were pretty specific. Service dogs, my kids are this age, I only want to go at these certain times. So what that means is that your website needs to answer a lot of questions, long tail questions, which means questions that maybe one person a year might ask.
Wow.
And you have them. Everyone knows all those weird questions, but you can start off with the top 90% and then start drilling down. And then we just need to build really robust websites that AI's agents can read. So that way they can pull that information and answer those questions for the consumer, and they can easily transact, with your business. But the ones that provide little information are the ones that are not going to have the best opportunities, because long tail, I think Google said something like most searches are unique. I believe. Well, at least at one time that was the case. Yeah. But a lot of times we ask Google or ChatGPT, and they're very complex and unique questions. So we need to be able to answer those appropriately.
Yeah. Do you anticipate the restech platforms, once this becomes commonplace, offering a product that will integrate, that will do business with that AI agent, if you are signed up to sell through them in such a way that, the mom and pop tour operators around the country just, get that as part of what they're paying for in their restech?
Yeah, I think that AI agents and reservation software, there will be some type of connection or markup. And when I say markup, that means that there's a certain way that we build the reservation systems so AI agents can easily crawl it and read the information.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an exciting future. Now, one of the things that is pretty cool about the project that you've put together with this book is you created a custom GPT to go along with the book. For people that don't quite understand what that is, explain what that is and what it does for people, how it benefits them in their tourism businesses.
Great. So ChatGPT has a feature where you can upload a knowledge base or a blog or a manuscript, anything, and then you can instruct it, and you can interact with that information. So what I essentially did is I uploaded my book to ChatGPT. I gave it some instructions of how I want people to use it and digest the information. And now you can ask questions, and it's almost like, asking me. And in fact, it does a way better job in most cases, more thorough, but I didn't realize how expansive it could get. Like, for example, you could put in your OTA listing for one of your tour products, put it into the ChatGPT, and you can ask it to review it and provide recommendations based on the content from my book. And it gave this amazing response. It even will help you create an OTA strategy by asking you questions, pricing strategy, all sorts of things. But you can do this with not just books, but you can you do it with really anything. But it's a free service. But if you buy my book, I give the custom GPT for free, and it's like basically getting consulting.
That is amazing. I definitely encourage people to try that. Where can people find the book? Where can they follow you, connect with you, learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so masteringotas.com is the book, and there's buttons there where you can buy the book. If you can buy it in the US, or if you're globally, there's an option there too. Also have an ebook. So you can just go to the website and there's easy links for you.
Yeah, excellent. And if they want to learn more about you, follow you online, what are the best places to do that?
LinkedIn is probably the best. I also have a Facebook page as well. I don't really do much on Instagram, but I would say LinkedIn is probably the best. I love posting informative things I find online about the industry, and I think you'll enjoy a lot of the content I share.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we will link to the book and to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. Now, before I let you go, we have some questions we ask everybody, and these are just for fun. So no pressure. Off the top of your head, when you travel, do you book a window seat or an aisle seat?
Neither, actually.
Really? Are you a middle seat guy?
I will take whatever seat you give me, because you just never know what situation you'll have. But yeah, I have no preference at all. I'll just take any seat.
That's a great attitude. So what's one thing in your carry-on that you wouldn't travel without?
Oh, I mean, I'm going to be boring, but it's probably my cell phone charger.
Yeah, pretty essential. You get somewhere without that charger and you feel like I have to put everything else on pause until I go find another charger.
If the phone is dead, then I feel like I can't exist. Yeah, because everything just runs through your phone now. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, our capacity to store information in our human brain memories is pretty small.
I was literally I was at Home Depot yesterday, and I was doing a project, and I was talking to Home Depot, or I'm talking to ChatGPT on my phone, just like I would talking to my wife. It was hysterical, and I just stopped, because you can do voice to text, through the app. So I'm here having this conversation, it's telling me where to go, and I already knew like what aisle, that things were going to be, doing price comparison while I'm looking at things, and should I go to Lowe's? I mean, it was pretty impressive. So it's like having a personal assistant.
Yeah, I love that. If you had a free airline pass and a week with nothing else to do, where would you be headed next?
I would be headed, Scotland just keeps coming to mind. I don't know why, but Scotland.
It's gorgeous. Definitely worth the trip if you get the chance. Yeah. Last question. What is one thing you have seen or done on the road that you wish you could go back and experience again with somebody you love?
Oh, so this is kind of funny. I grew up in Michigan, and we would travel up north. There's a bunch of different small lakes and things, but there's a place called the Sleeping Bear Dunes, and these big sand dunes. They're huge. Yeah. And I did it when I was a kid, and that's I would definitely want to go back, take my kids there. So
yeah, absolutely. Great memories. All right. The book is Mastering OTAs, the definitive guide for tour operators. Greg Fisher, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, I sure hope you enjoyed that conversation with Greg Fisher. I think it is a fascinating look into the way technology is changing our industry, maybe some of the ways that technology could give you opportunities to grow your groups and grow your business. Now, I want to hit a few of the highlights of things Greg had to say to make sure that you don't miss them. When I asked Greg if OTAs really work for outbound tour operators, he said that while the OTA environment is not as robust for outbound multi-day operators as it is day tour operators, he said that he thinks that outbound tour companies should absolutely list on OTAs. He said, if on average you always have 5 empty seats, OTAs don't necessarily require you to list all of your seats for a specific tour. You can give them certain seats. You can give them specific days. You have to give them inventory to sell, but you can be strategic. So you can gradually build your business with your distribution partners, but start slow. I think this is a really clever idea. Maybe you are one of the few tour companies that is selling out every departure you run. But if you are, like most tourism entrepreneurs, you always have a few empty seats left on that bus, and listing those tours on an OTA could make a really great way for you to fill those seats and bring in some extra revenue that you wouldn't have if you didn't list there. It may not be for everybody, but it could be worth considering for you. Now, when I asked Greg about how tour companies can really make the most of OTAs and make sure they're getting the best visibility, he said, make sure you have the absolute best photos. Your primary image should have something called a key moment. It's that perfect candid photo of the tour, capturing those key moments with people having the time of their lives. And the rest of your photos should tell the story of that experience from start to finish. I think this is absolutely a great point. And hey, it's not just true of OTA listings. I think the key moment photo philosophy could be integrated into any kind of visual medium you use for marketing. That means your website. That means your web pages for specific tours and departures you're selling. That means your brochures, your catalogs, your e-newsletters, your social posts, anything that you put out into the universe. You need to have great photos. Finally, when Greg and I were talking about the way artificial intelligence is poised to change the online travel agency industry, Greg said, my belief is that the consumer-facing side of an OTA, where you go and make a reservation, that will slowly sunset. Those interfaces will be replaced by AI agents. I believe companies like ChatGPT will create personal assistants where instead of going to the OTA to search, you would go to your AI agent. You won't even have to go to the website. So we will essentially be building consumer-facing websites for AI agents, not for real people. He went on to say, the questions I'm asking my AI agent are really specific. That means your website needs to be answering lots of questions that one person a year may ask. We need to build really robust websites that AI agents can read. That way they can pull that information for the consumer and easily transact with your business. Now, if you're like me, this is a future that might make your head spin a little bit. After all, most of us have spent the last 10 years or so busily trying to optimize our websites for search engines, trying to optimize our social media presence. So thinking about trying to optimize for artificial intelligence is something that most of us have never even considered. But I think this is actually a positive development for tour operators. Because as Greg said, you know what kind of questions your audience has. So if you create content on your website that answers all those questions, you give yourself the best likelihood of being discovered by AI agents or frankly by search engines in traditional search optimization as well. Great stuff there from Greg Fisher. Now, earlier in the episode, we talked about the falling number of tourists coming to New York, especially tourists coming from international destinations. And while this is challenging news and troubling news, as I thought about this trend and what may be causing it, I realized there might be some silver linings of falling tourism visitation. And we're going to talk about that today in the Hot Minute. Yeah, that's right. The Hot Minute is the portion of the show where I take 60 seconds to give you my unfiltered views on an issue that impacts tourism every day. And today we're asking the question, is there a silver lining of falling international visitation to the U.S.? So let's put 60 seconds on the clock and get into it. I want to be clear. Plummeting international visitation to the U.S. is a disaster. The effects could be devastating for tourism entrepreneurs and for frontline service workers. But while I hate this development, I think there may be some opportunities hidden in the bad news. Above all, a decrease in demand from international visitors might lead to some excess supply and therefore lower travel prices. In an environment where travel has become unaffordable for much of the middle class, this could be a welcome development. Another benefit, especially for crowded cities, could be a decrease in over-tourism. Seeing fewer people in busy seasons may mean a better experience for visitors and locals alike. Now, unfortunately, there's not much any of us can do to reverse this trend. So, in the absence of other options, I suggest we take this bowl of lemons we've been served and start figuring out how to make lemonade. Well, that's the Hot Minute. That's how I see things anyway. Of course, as always, you're welcome to disagree with me, and we can still be friends. And hey, whether you agree or disagree, we would love to hear from you. You can send your thoughts, questions, or your ideas about the bright side of terrible news to podcast@grouptravelleader.com. I always love hearing from you. I read every email that comes into that address. And hey, you never know. Your ideas might just be the topic of the next Hot Minute. And while you're in the mood to give us some feedback, would you do me a big favor? Would you go to your favorite podcast playing app? And if you haven't already subscribed to the show, do it there. While you're there, if you would give us a rating and leave us a review, that would be a big help. And I'm so thankful to every one of you who has done that so far. My thanks as well to Greg Fisher for joining us today. On the next episode of Gather and Go, I'm going to bring you a conversation with legendary travel broadcaster Peter Greenberg, who is going to help us understand how we can inspire wonder in our travelers. You're not going to want to miss that. Until then, though, remember this. At the end of the day, we're all on this trip together, so let's make it a good one. See you next time on Gather and Go. Gather and Go is hosted and executive produced by me, Brian Jewell. Our publisher is Mac Lacey. Danya Simmons is our creative director. Ashley Ricks is our circulation manager and graphic designer. Our sales team is Kyle Anderson and Talisa Reck. To advertise on the podcast, call Talisa at 859-253-0455. Gather and Go is a production of the Group Travel Leader. For more information about our magazines, podcasts, and events, visit us online at grouptravelleader.com.